Welcome everybody to another Workshop Wednesday, where it's casual conversations for serious workflows, brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you learn QuickBooks your way. How are you, Rachel?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good.
Sorry, I just have to fix my camera for a second. Okay, there we go.
You got awfully grabby there.
Well, I got one of these cool cameras that you can move it to actually the middle of your screen, so then that way you can look at the camera. So I just had to adjust it a little bit.
All right. Oh, hey, we got Landon watching, old-time friend of the show from way back in the day. It's good to see you virtually on on YouTube. Thanks for joining us today. So as you guys know, we are available for CPE credit, as Blake was saying there before we started, and now I've collapsed. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
See, this is why I need Noah back here to help me with this. Okay, where did it go? Okay, so we have okay, there we go. There's the QR code. Our School of Bookkeeping channel on Earmark is eligible for CPE credit. So 5 to 7 days after our workshop, they'll create a course and you can get CPE credit on that by checking out the channel over at Earmark. But the live sessions are not eligible for CPE credit. So with that, oops, I hit the wrong button. So today we're actually going to be talking about a couple things revolving around QuickBooks payments. We like QuickBooks payments
Love
here
it.
at School of Bookkeeping. You use them with your
yes,
with your clients?
Everybody's on QuickBooks payments. I love it.
Right. And we had talked pretty much ad nauseum with other workshops and things like that. We have a whole course on School of Bookkeeping about QuickBooks payments and the things that you can do. And the really cool part, I think, in general about QuickBooks payments is, to me, it's billing and bookkeeping done at the same time, right? So if you're creating an invoice or doing what you do to accept to enter in sales, then the ability to accept payment electronically is a nice function. And what is super nice about QuickBooks payments is that everything that happens after the invoice is sent with regards to the payment is then done, as Brad Smith would say,
everything is automated after it. And you know what I will have to add, it's not even just that I use it. I strongly encourage all of my clients to use it, more so than even me. And they love it. They really do. This is one of those things where some Intuit products can be a little bit like, do I need this? But QuickBooks payments, yes, I always strongly encourage, just because of the automation. Like, why wouldn't they? It's great.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, you send an invoice when the real world of they pay it happens, the payment is entered for you. When it shows into your bank account, the deposit is automatically matched. The fees are split out and calculated appropriately. And then the deposit transaction is automatically reconciled. So pretty much everything that you do from the point of which you send out the payment to the time that you button up the deposit and reconcile it is then handled for you, which is a huge time saver, not just for the business owner, but accounting pros like yourself.
Definitely.
Right,
and I have to say, like, for some strange reason, I've been getting a lot of inquiry lately, not even from my own clients, just from people in my network. How do I send out invoices with that payment link? Like, oh, okay. And so I love explaining how it works, because a lot of people are still, and I'm sure you're probably going to get into this, but a lot of people are still sending out a Word doc invoice and receiving payment with a check. And so That's actually why I've been getting a lot of inquiry about that, and there really just isn't anything better than the embedded payment link via the invoice.
Yeah. There's a variety of ways, other ways to take payments out there in the real world, but this is the one that pretty much handles everything
Yep,
from soup to nuts as far as the integration
exactly. If
inside of
you're
QuickBooks Online.
invoicing from QuickBooks, nothing better.
Yeah. So we're big fans about it, right? But just like anything else in the Intuit ecosystem, things change,
Wait, what?
and so we want to
I'm just
make
kidding.
sure that people are aware of those types of things. So the first thing is all about tap to pay, which this boils down to how you take a payment inside of QuickBooks. There are three ways that you can take a payment, right? You can, uh, as we talked about, you can email an invoice, and the customer then gets that link and clicks the link to pay, and then they enter their payment information into the online invoice, and then that's saved securely, and that processes the payment. That's one way
Yeah,
to take a
and
payment.
let me just like add really
Um,
quick too, that ability in folks going from emailing a Word doc invoice and having somebody send a check, that move from that to sending a payment link on that invoice elevates them to a level of professionalism that I can't even tell you. It's just so cool. It is such a inexpensive way to really level up your operation. It is awesome.
yeah, yeah, and like we said, there's multiple different ways to do that, right? Like you can, if you have a PayPal account, you can send a PayPal invoice, and that sort of thing allows that, but it only allows you to receive payment through PayPal, and how that information then comes into your QuickBooks is maybe less than desired, right? Because of how
Yeah, not
PayPal
the
integrates
most
into
intuitive,
into QuickBooks.
not the easiest thing to understand.
All right, right. And that's typically where uh, applications and functionality end up hitting a pothole. Or like, okay, well, yeah, the information came in, but not
Yeah.
in a meaningful way. Maybe there's sales tax involved and those types of things, and that may not have been set up appropriately or communicating properly between QuickBooks and the system that you're using. So here it's all in one place, and so that e-invoicing is one method of taking a payment, and that method is going to be determining how much you pay for the
Yep.
transactional fees, right? Because all of those things are based on the likelihood of risk, which is a formula that these credit card processing companies will apply towards the way that transactions are processed and the likelihood that they could be fraudulent, right? So an e-invoice is kind of that mid-range risk, right? Because someone needs to enter in the payment information that reasonably so would potentially have the card on them, right? Or in their in their system, right? Because you're sending an email, that's a little bit more of a secure method than you know a piece of paper or a Word document with a link on it, right? That could potentially be where how they would pay or process the payment, and then the receiver should be receiving it in a manner that they would either have access to the card or a system, maybe they store it in their Google Wallet or their Apple Pay or things like that, where that would be a little bit more secure of a method. Of course, there's fraud, and potential issues that could potentially cause that particular payment to be reversed due to fraudulent activity. But that is significantly less than the key entered method, which is you either call your customer and they give you their credit card information, and you manually type it in to process it, or God forbid they take a picture of it
Or send it through their email. Here's my
and
number.
send it to
Yeah.
skywrite it, on hire a plane
Well,
and
they
have a
might as well
skywriting
if they're
of their
emailing it.
16-digit. Exactly. So that is less, or I'm saying a
Right.
higher risk activity, and potentially, fraudulent types of transactions could take place. And then, of course, the reversal of such, right, costs these credit card processing companies the time and funds, and in order to make that all right. So as a business owner, you will get charged a higher fee for
Yep.
a key entered transaction, right? So the highest risk is key entered, the mid-range risk is e-invoicing, and the most secure or less risky, probably the best way to describe it, is swiped, card present, right? And that's going to happen in the situation where you are face to face in front of your customer, and they are going to prove that they have the card because they have it in their hand, and they're going to be able to swipe the card, right? And so I forgot to pull out.
Oh, you know what? I think I have one.
Right? You got one? Well, that's okay. I mean, we don't need to actually see it. And for those people listening to the podcast are like, what the heck are they talking about anyway? Because they can't see it.
This might be an old one, but this is, this might be a non-existent one anymore, but this was it.
Yeah. So, so there's going to be a card reader. But typically now there's a new one, which is kind of really cool looking. It displays the amount and those types of things. It's like $49. You can't get the ones that you were just holding up there anymore. They used to be $19, but they are Bluetooth compatible with your mobile device. And so there's a cost associated with that. So you have to attach pair the device to the phone and be able to process the transaction that way. But that's where you're using the mobile payment option, either through the app or through Go Payment, which is a mobile processing app specifically for
and now with that,
so now
you can do the tap pay. Yes.
So on the app, right, when you have a let's see here.
And Landon asked if there's a limit on how much you can collect with tap pay, because I don't know.
So that's a good question, Landon. The limit would be more in terms of the. Can I make this bigger? No, I can't. Okay, so my mirrored phone, this just seems like a lot of real estate missing here. I wish I could make this bigger, but whoops, I swiped too far there. Okay, this is a new thing that I'm trying here. Okay, I'm going to go into the QuickBooks mobile app. I'm trying to put it. Oh no. Okay, so I'm going to get code. This is kind of cool though. I can use. Where'd it go? The code was right there a second ago. I saw it. No. Dang it. All right. Nope. I'm over here. All right. So let's see here. So the code is. I tried this earlier, right before we started, and it was like, oh, okay, I could just use it saw the code and just pre-filled it in there, but that's the dilemma of doing things on a live event here. Oh, it's going to make me sign in again. Oh, jeez. Okay. Never mind. Okay. All right. I'm going to sign in using my face because that was the option here. But the mirrored phone cannot see my face. All right, so we're going to go in here. And I got to, it's weird. You got to lock it. You got to lock the phone in order to use screen mirroring. Hopefully it's in the right, no, it's not in the right place. Oh, this was a nice idea. Where'd it go?
You may
Where
have to
are you,
just
QuickBooks?
explain
Oh
it
my game.
in theory.
Yeah. There it is. Okay. All this just to show this little tiny thing. So there is an option now called Tap
And this is
to Pay
in
on the iPhone.
QuickBooks online app, not
Yes.
not the payment
So
or whatever it's called.
it might
Go
it
payment.
might be in Go Payment. I
Oh,
actually
okay,
didn't check it out. But this is the QuickBooks payment option, and then you just click on Set It Up here, and it gives you some different ideas about how to resources and whatnot. I'm just going to click Continue, and then of course you have to agree to all the terms, and then it's just linking it to my Apple account.
Yeah, and this is so cool.
And then I got to do an update. Okay, well apparently I got to do an update. Takes about 2 minutes.
Of course.
But what this will allow you to do is to avoid having to set up the card reader, right? Because this is essentially a card present type of transaction, where you'll be able to either where the user will be able to take their phone, or not their, they can either take their phone and tap it, using their Apple Wallet, or you can or Google Wallet for the Android users, or they'll be able to use their card, and then the EMV chip, the chip will be able to recognize the phone very much the same as if you do it at any store or terminal that does allow the tap to pay. Cool. Where you're able to just hold the card near the device, it'll recognize the chip, and then it will be able to.
Because what if you're going to, like, let's say you're going to be selling something somewhere at some pop-up market or whatever, and then you forget your credit card swiper thing, and then you're stuck. And so in this situation, you don't need it.
Right. So you don't need to cart around that. You don't have to wait for the device to connect to each other. And 9 times out of 10, if you're anything like me, you've forgotten to charge this device.
Or if you're like me, you would have just forgotten it. And let's say you live somewhere like Southern California, where I'm from, and then you have to drive back home on the freeway to go get it, and then you're stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours. So I don't have traffic where I live now. So that's not a problem.
So by enabling this on your mobile device, and if it's ready for you, I mean, if you don't see it, then it's likely it's not rolled out to your account yet, or you're not the primary admin on the account, or something along those lines as to why you don't see it, or your device isn't updated. I mean, there's any number of reasons why you wouldn't have this option on your mobile device. But that is something to establish and set up inside of the mobile application. All right, so that's kind of that, and that's a new function within regards to the payments. Now, the advantage, of course, is when you're face to face with a customer, potential customer, with your landscaping company, or you're working at the farmer's market, and inside of your QuickBooks Online, using the mobile device lowers the fees that are associated with the amount of payments, right? So this is a card swiped or present transaction, which of course is less of a risky behavior, because you see the payment, you see the payment method, you see the card in front of you. So there is a method of proving that card was present during that transaction, which an e-invoice and a key enter transaction don't have. So you end up paying more as far as the transactional costs associated with those things because they could potentially be a higher
Yeah.
risk,
And I
right?
think it's it could be
And then
even as much as like a half a percentage or a whole percentage point more.
yeah, well the fees, it's like 2.3% or something like that for key entered. You can check that, and I have that mentioned
Oh,
in this
okay.
blog
Yeah,
article here.
I've
So
got it somewhere too.
where you can go to
Yeah.
check your fees out, and see what they are for those different rates. You can always look at the statement inside of QuickBooks Online, and it'll let you know what was charged per transaction. If you go through us at School of Bookkeeping, we get you lower fees because of the Pro Advisor discount that we're able to extend to folks. So if you can check that out on our website. But here we want to talk about this new-ish option, which started in March, right? So um, when we talk about recurring payments, this is something relatively new. And so I created this blog to kind of separate and explain those three different scenarios, and what they potentially mean to you. Now, if you don't want to take the time to read the blog, you can listen to the audio recap at the top here. So there's a pretty cool way. It takes all of 7 minutes for two people, not Rachel and myself, but they sound very similar to to Rachel and myself talking about this blog. So it's a pretty cool option that I discovered pretty recently. But there is this thing called a recurring invoice, and how you can set up a recurring invoice inside of your QuickBooks Online, and that is just a invoice that has a schedule
Yep.
associated with it, right? So when we talk about that middle option of emailing the invoice and allowing your customer to pay it, that's what a recurring invoice is. And there is then ultimately a manual payment associated with that. And by that manual, they'll someone has to
Right.
approve the payment, right? But the benefit of the recurring invoice is that you'll always have the invoice sent out on such and such a date, so you can schedule those things. You can also, in the recurring transactions section, um, include unbilled
Mm-hmm.
charges, right? Um, so if you do have charges that are time, or things like that that alter the amount, this is really helpful for that, because it will automate the creation of the invoice based on those new charges, and then it automatically sends that out. So this is a good scenario for, I don't always have the same
Yes.
amount to charge, um, but I want to be able to take a
And it's
payment
also good for
electronically,
those people
right?
that are like, wait, it's already the first. All of mine are on recurring.
because
I can't manage without that.
because one thing that you can't do with an invoice that is on a regular schedule is automatically pay it, or schedule it to be paid
Got it.
at the same time, or at least you
Not
or at
with
least
an
you couldn't,
invoice.
right? With an invoice. Now, invoice, they came out with a newish function called auto pay, which I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom, right? So when a customer receives said invoice, and there'll be a checkbox at the bottom that they can say, this is a recurring payment, or this is a recurring invoice, and they can opt into being able to automatically charge the card that they enter in, or the bank, right, depending on whatever they put in there, charge the payment method on file on this
Okay.
recurring interval, right? So you can still have recurring invoices, you can still have recurring payments of those invoices, but the customer has to opt in to be able to do that, right? So what happens is the invoice gets automatically sent out, but it's more of a receipt for them. They don't have to automatically, they don't have to pay
Yeah.
it every time, but they have to opt in. Now, that's something that you as a business owner cannot manage, right? Because it's the customer who has opted into the ability to be able to uh, accept those terms that this invoice will come out on the first of the month and it will charge your card or your bank account on the first of the month as well. So that's only something that they can
Got it.
opt into, right? So beginning in March, they created this new option, right, which is called recurring payments. Because one thing that you couldn't do inside of your recurring transactions is record and save a recurring payments. You could if you used a sales receipt to record the transaction, but some people like the whole invoice payment
Not me. I
workflow,
prefer
right?
sales receipt.
Not you. Right. So you could create a recurring sales receipt, and in that creation of the recurring sales receipt, put in the stored payment method, but you needed to
Yes.
have approval from the customer. So there was a form that you had to apply, send to the customer. They would have to fill it out, fax it back, or you know, send it back. Hopefully, they send it back securely, but doesn't mean that they do, right? So that was a pain to manage, um, and the things to be able to do that was within the the scope of a sales receipt itself. So became quite a pain if the payment didn't go through, didn't get deposited. Maybe it was a group of transactions. Typically, this would happen on the first of the month or the last day of the month, which is typically when a lot of these recurring payments would go through. If they didn't go through, it was quite a pain to sort that out because you're dealing with a sales receipt as opposed to an invoice, which has two separate events
Right.
associated with it, and then becomes quite a challenge. Enter in this new recurring payments function, right? Which is a kind of a hybrid of these recurring invoices and sales receipts that have recurring payments attached to it. This is something that you're now able to opt into or send. You can send the customer the ability to opt in to recurring payments, and they do that. Both you as a business owner and the customer have the ability to opt in or out or
Oh,
manage
that's
the
great.
payment
And then does it
method.
have a built-in authorization form in it?
Yeah, you don't have to do
Oh, that's
anything with a
nice.
form
Because
because
the
you are
doing the form before
sending them
was
the
such a
request.
pain, and I couldn't really ever
Right.
find one into it. And I don't know if there was one, but I was like using an external one, but then I would always have to modify it, and just was a lot of work.
Right. Oh, I forgot to put up the QR code and in the link here for the blog article that we're talking about here today. Um, but it's got all sorts of uh, resources built into it, um, because Intuit articles are, trying to consolidate this all into one article. That's what we're trying to do here is give you a one-stop shop for all of the resources that are out there, because there are so many different, the terms of auto pay versus recurring payments versus recurring invoices was it maddening to say, at best, with regards to what are we actually talking about here. But to answer your question, Rachel, yes, it will send a request to the customer. They then put in their payment method into that, and they opt into, yes, this will recur, and this will charge the payment method on such and such a day. And both the customer and the business owner will have the ability to manage that, um, both inside of QuickBooks and in the essentially the customer portal that they're doing, as opposed to auto pay, which is solely the responsibility of the
Yeah.
payor, the customer in this case, or recurring payments as sales receipts, which is solely the responsibility of the
Yeah.
business owner at that point. So this is kind of a happy
Yeah, we're
medium
kind of like
between the two.
eliminating some of these. Well, I'm just gonna not pay it, and helping people collect their payments a little bit easier.
Right. And then the other caveat to all of this, and we had talked about this on a prior workshop, is this is only available in the new invoicing experience, right? So if you're using your customized sales form template, or not using the modern view, which only has one option right now, that then you may find that you're not able to do these recurring payments in this manner. But there is the option within the like I have a recurring invoice that's sent out. It's this option here at the top, right? So I have an invoice. I went into my recurring transactions, and there's a little link for that recurring invoice that says, would you like to convert this to a recurring
I was just going to ask if you can do that. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so we've got links for that inside of the blog article as well, that will take you out to the Intuit article of how to convert those things. And then all the way down here at the bottom, because there are lots of questions about when money movement is involved, we have, a frequent, reconsolidated the frequently asked questions that Intuit has had as well. So tried to make this blog article a one-stop shop for you for this particular type of issue. I think I'll go through as well. Like here's a quick comparison table between the two: who who sets it up, who pays for it, when is it going to be paid. So hopefully that's a quick and easy answer and resource for you on our blog.
And then just one quick question. So with this last method, the recurring payment, is it actually creating an invoice within QBO, or is it a sales receipt, or neither?
It's still an invoice, and then it's just, again, it's separating the two, and it allows you as a business owner and your customer to manage that payment method, so that if you're using the recurring payment method of old, where you set up a sales receipt and the customer changed their payment method, then you would have to send them another form, get them to authorize that. That was a really
analog process.
Keep that on file.
And then so then with recurring payments, if I'm a business owner, I can look at invoices in my QBO, and I'll see them as invoices.
So as Landon said, so this is a summarizing. So this new feature is basically the automation of that form and collecting the CC information. In addition, it could be any payment method that the modern invoice allows, right? So they could set up ACH, the Venmo, PayPal options, because that is all within their scope of payments inside the modern the new invoice experience. So being able to collect that information, and that's what he was mentioning there, is that you could set up recurring transactions with the payment method, but that is the sales receipt process, right, as opposed to the invoice payment method. So yes, this is a new-ish feature, started in early March, and based off of everyone's questions about it, nobody knows about it, right? So that's what we're trying to do here, is make sure that people are aware, and we're going to then take this workshop and add these functions and features inside of our QB Payments course. So if you're a member of School of Bookkeeping, you'll have access to all of those cool features all in one place, and you can ask us questions in there on each individual lesson if you wanted to. All of those things available in the School of Bookkeeping. So that is our kind of topic here for the day. Rachel, any final thoughts about
No, I
this
love it.
new
And
function?
I like everything automated. You know what I mean? I've sort of gotten in the habit where I just like to kind of sit back and monitor everything, make sure everything's correct. But, all these
Yep.
repetitive tasks, I just like to set the system up to do it for me. And then, I don't have to spend my day, scanning a
Yep.
PDF and emailing it and then saving it. And that's just a lot of time consuming, busy work that, nobody wants to do anymore.
Right. And if you're using QuickBooks Online Advanced, you have the additional option of invoices that don't get paid. You can have people
Mm-hmm.
sent reminders and those types of things. So it's not a um, it's not it's not an all or nothing as it is with other versions of, if something didn't get paid, you get a nasty gram, right? You can be a little bit more. Um, you can change the template so that if their balance is thousands of dollars, you can word it a little bit more um,
Oh, oh,
strict,
oh,
I
oh.
guess.
I didn't know that. So I can edit the invoice that's already been sent without having to create a new one and thus breaking that payment link, because that's what happens if you edit, then that original payment link doesn't work anymore. That's really cool.
Right, right. Yeah, so I mean, you can just have those reminders of when a payment didn't go through or those types of things inside of
Yeah, Landon has
QBO
one
Advanced.
last question,
You
and
can set
actually,
those
I
things
want
up.
to know that too.
Oh, let's see. One last question. Oh, does it all? Okay, let me pull it up here because I can't. Does it all allow you to set up the recurring transaction without the consent? No. Um, Auto pay requires their consent. Uh, your this new method does require them to put in and enter in their payment information, which is entered in securely through the
But they don't
invitation.
need to consent every
But
single
nobody's going to be
time there's a transaction.
right. Well, once it's established, you don't have to get their consent each time. If that's the question there. Um, the other method of where you had the authorization form, um, once you have if anything changes, you would need a new form and a
Mm-hmm.
new consent at that time. So this allows the automation of that. So good question there. All right, so we will see you next time on the workshop Wednesday. I'm trying to remember what we're going to be talking about, but I've forgotten because I was so excited about this
Something cool.
that I don't remember. Oh, there it is. It's up here. We are going to be talking about. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. I'm on the wrong thing. Okay, so those are. What day is today? The 4th. So we'll be talking about emailing things out of invoices or emailing things out of QuickBooks. I've discovered that there actually is a limit for the number of things that you can email on a daily basis
Oh,
out of
I didn't know
QuickBooks
that.
Online, which I did not even realize. So we're going to talk about emailing out of QuickBooks Online, those limitations and options that you have now for connecting to like a Google account for your outgoing. So we'll talk about that next week, and we'll appreciate you joining us this week. And we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday. And I'm trying to find my cursor. Where'd it go? Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time.